Let's face it, if you're not already using a virtual assistant to help run your therapy practice, you might actually be paying for it without even knowing. My name is John Clark, licensed therapist and business coach at privatepracticeworkshop.com. So to elaborate on my intro there, what I want to say is that for a lot of therapists, they're already paying for a virtual assistant without knowing it. What does this mean? Well, it means that let's say that you charge $150 per session. While you're in session, someone calls to book their first appointment with you. Well, that person, if they were to have gotten an answer from you or someone was answering live while you were in session, is going to come and generate $150 a week for your business. That's $600 a month for your business. Now, let's say you missed that call, then you missed that revenue. Let's say you get 2 calls while you're in session, and then those people just go on and call the next therapist and book with them. So you've now just missed out on $300 a week in revenue. That's $1,200 in revenue per week. Let's say that you have a VA that's working about 10 hours a week for you, and let's say you're paying them like $15 an hour to start. Well, just 1 session a week would cover the salary for that virtual assistant. And the reality is most virtual assistants will make you money rather than cost you money. This is essential to understand. Again, most virtual assistants, when they're doing a good job, they're actually going to be generating revenue for your business rather than costing you. So I want to start by talking a little bit about my history with VAs. I've had a number of businesses over the years, one of which was a virtual assistant company. This company basically offered virtual assistant services to therapy private practices. I've also hired, trained, and worked with a number of my own virtual assistants over the years. Right now, I've been running a virtual team to run Private Practice Workshop for a number of years. We've been all virtual, all remote. So I know a thing or two about what it takes to build a virtual team and work effectively together. So again, I want you to think about the fact that if you're not already using a virtual assistant, you're probably already paying for it. A wise friend once told me just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. There was a time where early on, I was doing all the things in my private practice, everything from seeing clients to doing the billing, scheduling, paperwork, writing blog posts, doing the email marketing, etc. Now, a good rule of thumb for you is that everyone in the business should be doing the task that generates the most amount of revenue possible. For therapists, guess what this is? Doing therapy. It's the reason why when I call my physician's office, he or she doesn't answer the phone. He or she is off doing the things where they can be billing out hundreds of dollars per hour, whereas they have someone at the front desk who's making 15, 20, 25, 30 bucks an hour to effectively run the practice. The role of admin is in part to kind of safeguard and protect, really kind of be the gatekeeper for that therapist or for that provider. By doing that, they are protecting your ability to do the thing that generates the most amount of revenue as possible for the practice. Let's talk about some pitfalls when hiring a virtual assistant. The first one is what people call superhero syndrome. This is basically when we believe, incorrectly, that no one can do all the things that I do as well as I can do them. This is a great way to be the bottleneck of your entire business, to never really grow and scale, to never get time with your family and friends back, to never get your health back, and to just stay busy working within a business all the time and wasting your time doing these $15 to $20 an hour tasks. The inverse, or how to get through superhero syndrome, is to find someone who's good enough at the job or who's up for the task and ask yourself, can this person do this task about 80% as well as I can do it with reasonable training? The reality is when you have superhero syndrome, you are actually making mistakes all the time. You just don't see them as much as when you're watching someone else do the job and you're nitpicking and you're really very critical of them, or a single typo in a blog makes you think, wow, maybe this person's not a good fit for the job, etc. So again, the reality is you're not perfect, you're already making mistakes, but your fear of letting go of control, right, and your tendency to just maintain control of everything is getting in the way of you really growing your business. So again, can someone do this task 80% as well as I can do it with reasonable training? One way to start figuring out what you would train a VA to do is to make a list of all the tasks you do in a given week. Beyond things like seeing clients, what else do you do? Things like billing, emailing clients, sending super bills, creating blog posts, doing your email marketing, etc. And then basically when you look at those tasks, I want you to look at each one and kind of decide, does this task give me energy? Is it neutral? Or is it negative, right? Does it take energy from me? The things that are neutral or take energy from you, start outsourcing those things. It really is as simple as that. Again, you have to pair that with your ability and your readiness to really let go of control and to have people allow you to help you run and grow your business. So the second pitfall is unclear expectations, right? People can't really achieve when they don't know what's expected of them. People want to know how they're doing all the time. They want constant feedback. They want to know, if I am doing well, how will I know? In other words, what am I going to be measured against? Quick example of this would be you could measure their ability to convert new client leads for your practice. So let's say you get 10 inquiries in a week. How many of those do you expect them to convert? You can look at your own conversion rate and say if your ability to convert was about 50%, so converting about 5 of every 10 new client inquiries, then you might want to work with your VA to try to hit that standard or even exceed that standard. The irony is that I found over the years a VA or someone else can actually sell you better than you can sell you. It even adds an extra degree of professionalism when I call, and again, I'm talking to someone who's not the provider because I think, wow, their time must be so important that they're not here answering the phone, right, or responding to emails all day. They're off doing those things that they're most expert in. If your VA is not hitting a benchmark that you've set, then those are coachable moments where you can kind of lean in and say, what's getting in the way of you hitting this benchmark? Let's do some calls together, or let me give you feedback, or let me create a script for these calls that you can use. Everything can be a teachable moment. The third pitfall to working with the VA is unclear or inconsistent feedback. You need to set up some sort of structure for your feedback, or else it's going to be one of those things that just falls by the wayside. We'll talk about that more here in a second. Now I want to give you a few tips for working effectively with a virtual assistant or really any remote team member. And of course, this stuff all applies very well to someone who's working in person with you. First piece of advice, hire slow, fire fast. Okay, this gets tossed around a lot when we're talking about hiring, but the idea is to just take your time early on when you're in your process of recruiting, interviewing people, hiring, onboarding. It's a very laborious process to find the right person, to make them an offer, for them to say yes, to get them onboarded to your business, learning all of your systems, getting them all the logins, etc. So you need to take this process very seriously. Also, as you're onboarding someone to your practice, you need to make sure you're really clear with them, again, about things like our policies, our expectations, what their pay is going to be like, how they can earn more pay, etc., etc. The fire fast part means, hey, here are criteria that would warrant you losing your job. Next piece of advice is to give them a trial task. I do this with almost every hire that I make. So for instance, if I'm hiring like a copywriter for my business, I'm going to have them write some copy as a trial task. That could either be a free task or something that I pay them for. Basically, it's a lot easier to spend some money on the front end like this and do some testing to eliminate or reduce the odds of making a bad hiring decision. It's a lot harder to get rid of someone later once you've made a bad hiring decision and they're very integrated into your business. You have to deal with things like employment laws in your area, etc. So again, be sure to give them a trial task that is kind of similar to what they'll be doing in the actual job. After they complete the trial task, give them some feedback on that. Show them exactly what they did well and what they could improve upon. This is a great moment for you to see how they respond to receiving feedback. The next piece of advice is give them a 90-day probationary period. This is kind of giving yourself a back door, and again, to reduce the odds of you making a bad hiring decision. Because let's face it, people can kind of be anyone during a hiring process, similar to like when you're dating and just getting to know someone, and then when they really let their true colors shine later, you might be unpleasantly surprised by kind of who they really are once they get comfortable. So give them a 90-day probationary period and just tell them, hey, we have this period where during that time we're going to see how we work together, make sure we're a good fit both ways. I'm going to give you feedback, and then after those 90 days, I will decide, if we're a good fit to keep working together, and if you can kind of go off of probationary status and into full-time status. So once you've found your VA and you're working with them, meet with them at least weekly. I like to treat these weekly meetings almost like a coaching session. So the 3 areas that I like to cover are wins, challenges, and action steps. So I have them kind of come prepared to me to talk about these 3 areas. Wins is just the idea that whatever we focus on grows and gets bigger. So I want to hear, hey, what went well for you over the past week in your role? So when we're sharing wins, what it does is basically it helps to just kind of promote positivity in the workplace and in your relationship. It also helps you see what's most important to them. What are the things they're most attentive to, and what are the parts that they're really focusing on right now? Challenges, I'm going to have them bring to me their challenges for the job, right? So if I've made the job clear enough, or one of the tasks is to write a blog post every week, then a challenge might be, how do I find more blog post ideas? Or I found these, can you approve these blog post ideas, right? Or hey, hey, I think we should start a YouTube channel. My challenge is now in creating the videos, or whatever it may be. You really want to put it on them to manage their role, to know exactly what their job is, and to come to you for things that they need support with or need your help troubleshooting. Finally, action steps. These are the couple of pieces that you agree on at the end of that meeting that they're going to do next. Again, this is a really simple way to approach your one-to-one meetings. And again, I recommend doing these at least weekly, if not more, especially in the beginning. Finally, I'm going to suggest that you do something that I call 3 and 3 feedback about every quarter or so. 3 and 3 is basically 3 strengths and 3 areas of improvements. You're going to have them fill that out, and then you're going to fill that out. You're going to come sit down for about an hour for this feedback session. They're going to present their 3 and 3. You're going to present your 3 and 3, see where the overlap is. Again, see how conscientious they are about their work performance. And then at that point, it might be appropriate to discuss things like a salary increase or a promotion in their job title, etc., etc. This is, again, a chance for you to really show them what's going well and then show them where they're falling short. I can't stress enough how much people love feedback. They really want to know how they're doing, so don't be afraid to lean in here and really show people and be critical when you need to be critical. Alright, so the last section of this video, how to find a VA and how to figure out what to pay them. There's basically 2 ways you can approach this. One is working with a VA company. As therapists, there's a bunch of different VA companies that you can find, or you can just go Google. The benefit here is you have a VA who is trained. They're already going to know things like EHRs, how to answer the phone, how to talk to clients. They might know a bit about confidentiality, etc. Another benefit is if they are sick, then usually there's another person in that VA company that can take over quickly or can take over that day and answer your phones, respond to emails, etc. It's crucial that no matter if you go with a VA company or go with an individual, that all your processes and procedures and passwords, logins, stuff like that are documented perfectly. They need to be documented so well that literally someone could just step into the role tomorrow morning and start doing it. So the reality is with the VA company, again, this can be a great solution because they've already done the recruiting and hiring part for you. I would say the only downside is you don't have much kind of control over how that person operates, and you're going to end up paying a real premium for it because the VA company naturally needs to build in some profit. So you might pay 2 to 2.5x the price that you would pay if you paid an individual directly. So that's the second way to find a VA, is just to find a VA on your own. Things like Facebook groups, posting job listings to Indeed or even Craigslist, places like that. Oh, by the way, I highly recommend against ever hiring friends and family. There's that whole saying about don't, go to the bathroom where you eat. This is crucial. Trust me, I have learned the hard way. Just don't do it. So what do I prefer out of these 2 methods? Well, I have some experience now in recruiting and hiring and onboarding and in managing people. So of course, I prefer to hire people directly. Again, I'm going to pay them less. I have a bit more control of kind of how they work. I know how to kind of support them in being effective in their job, and I'm comfortable in this manager role. Again, I have to know that the risk there is if they leave, right? If they leave next week and I don't have a backup, I've got to jump into hiring mode really quickly. To me, that risk is worth it, but you've got to decide for yourself. Ultimately, I also ask people to commit to the long term. So if I get someone to agree to work with me, I'm also usually going to ask for about a year commitment. Now, this might be formal in writing or it might be more informal. But again, I find it's important that they know that I'm going to invest a lot of time, energy, and money up front into training and onboarding them. And so I need to make sure that they're actually going to stick around. Hey, ultimately you get what you pay for, right? So when thinking about how much to pay, look at what is standard for administrative roles in that area. I live in San Francisco, but again, I might do well to find a VA who lives in a part of the country that's a little more affordable. This is the beauty of having someone remote. Ultimately though, the person needs to feel good about what they're making, and you also need to feel like you can afford it. You also need to feel like there is some room to grow for that person, right? So don't start their rate so high that you really can't grow from there and they're working under a glass ceiling. Finally, just make sure that whatever fee you set with this person, that you set really clear outcomes and benchmarks for them to hit. You do those 3 and 3 evaluations every quarter, and that they feel rewarded for their work and they feel like they're really going somewhere. Everyone needs to feel like they're going somewhere and they're not working a dead-end job. The last piece I would say is you could consider something called profit sharing or revenue sharing if you really want to incentivize someone. Let's say they've been with your practice for a year, a couple years or something, and you want to share some portion of the profit. Or you could just give them a bonus for every 10 clients that they book. They get a $100 bonus or something like that. I find it extremely effective to have people bought in that way. In other words, to give them a real incentive that is attached to their actual performance. Okay, well there you have it, just some thoughts about how to hire a virtual assistant, why it probably already makes sense for you to do it, how to avoid some pitfalls, how to get the most out of it, how to find one, and what to pay them. We've covered a lot of ground. I hope this was helpful. If it was, hit that like button, hit subscribe if you haven't already. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. And of course, if you want some help in growing your business, just click the link in the description to learn more about working with us. Thanks again, and I'll see you soon.